Hello everyone. In this video, we are going to see about project part 2 of DSE 6100. This project is about web interface of DIY questions and YouTube's. Part 1 is already completed with the user registration, root user registration, new user registration, existing user login, and initializing a database using root user. So part 2 is about posting a question, add a URL to the existing question and reviewing, so etc. So now we will see one by one. So this is the first script to run. This is the first script. So without logging in, a user can search for a question or pattern of a question. So like this it will be displayed. If a user is logged in, there will be one more column in here which will have actions, that is like add URL, post a review. So for this it will show a message like login as a user for posting questions. So this is not logged in. So if we want to log in, we can log in as a registered user in here. So this is the search for a question. So it will give actions like add URL, add to things. This is actually point 3. Implement a search interface so that a user can type a DIY question. All related questions will be written. So this is actually point 3 of this. So how this is implemented is, so if we go to so this is the first JSP script. Here this was existing as part, this was implemented as part of part 1. So this is the part of part 2, project part 2. Here we have implemented that search question, and this will, once we submit button, this will go for this action, search question. So I showed you the difference, like uh, with having the actions part and without having the actions part. So that is implemented using user. So if a user is logged in, that user will, based on the user information, it will be that will be designed. And so the question, so user has entered the pattern, so that pattern will be coming into this DAO method, and here this query will be running. This will actually fetch the question, video title and reviews for that pattern. So we will do a left join for question and video, so that even a URL is missing in the video for a question, that question should be fetched. And also we will do a left outer join with this query that will select the data from reviews table. So what we will do is we will join video table with reviews, so the URL should match. We'll for the corresponding URL we will fetch the reviews. This is actually a separate column. This is a separate column in the reviews table. What we will do is we will concatenate these two columns for a single column, and we will have multiple reviews for a single URL, right? So this group concat will make the multiple row into a single row, single column record. So if you want to see, we can go to for an example for this URL. It will have like this. It will have multiple records. But if you go back in here and if you log in and see, the multiple records are a single record in here, so that a user can review, see all the reviews for this. So this is this is how it is done, and we have two queries in here. This is for the pattern is null and pattern is not pattern is not null and pattern is null. For example, if user doesn't give any pattern, means it should fetch all the questions, right? So for that, that is implemented via here. So this will have pattern in here. The user input pattern in here. This will have nothing in here. This is how it is implemented. Project part 2 of 3. So that is done. And project part 1, what is it is, user can insert a DIY question, right? Okay. uh, I'm sorry, before moving on to that, listing the question, I didn't explain that. So this method will give the output as an array. See, it will be given in this array. This array will be set in here, and for any error messages that we will see later. After that, this question search question.jsp will be called. So here, so if the user is null, this column will not be present if it is null. Okay, that is what is done here. See choose, see when. And so based on user not null, the add URL and add favorite, add review buttons will come under action column. Okay, and this is for each record in the array. It will list all the question, username, poster date, URL, and the reviews like this. So this is what it is done. And now we need to insert a DIY question such as, okay, and the question ID should be automatically generated and posting date should be inserted. This is only registered user can insert. So this will not be implemented in this script. So once the user is logged in, we need to implement ask a question. So here the ask question.jsp is present. This ask question.jsp, what it will do is, in welcome user page, we will input a value as user. Okay, so for example, if you want to see in here, if I click ask a question, the username will fill in automatically and it cannot be edited, right? So it cannot be edited. Backspace will not work. So that was implemented in here. See here, and it will ask for the question and tags. Suppose you want to do something like how to fix TV, something like that. So TV you want to give comma old screw, something like that you need to give. If you do, so here also if you want to list questions, so if you want to check anything, the questions is already there. Here also this is implemented. So if you want to ask, see how to fix a TV is popped up, but there is no URL yet. So even those things doesn't have an URL yet. So if you go back and see the tags table, the tags will be inserted. See the table, the tags is inserted separately. Screw and TV. How that is implemented is, we'll go to the ask question. So once submitted, it will go to this insert question part. So here as usual we'll get the question, user and tags, and we'll go to this method. So first we will insert into questions table. We will not pass question ID. Question ID will be automatically generated. So that is given while creating the questions table. See question ID, auto increment, and post date, default, null value. Oh, sorry, now value. Now means current date. So if we didn't pass, it will automatically inserted for that column. So that will be inserted. And so after inserting, we are fetching the question ID for that question and for that username. So once a question ID is we got it, we need to insert it in the describe tags table, which will have tag words. So what we will do is we need to split the tags for the comma, that is taken care in here, and we are trimming it because we are giving a space in here, right, like this. So if you see, yeah, the space should be trimmed. So that is what is done in here. And for each tag we will do the inserting, that is the part of this for loop. So for each tag it will insert into this tags table, and it will come back in here and it will do the search question. Okay, it will list all the questions. So that is implemented. Part 1 is implemented. Part 3 is implemented as I shown. Part 2, how it is implement a web interface so that a registered user can insert a DIY question to an existing DIY question. DIY YouTube to an existing DIY question. Okay, so that is implemented as part of question. So for this question we need to add an URL. So we have given add URL, favorite URL, and add review. So this is like, this is for adding an URL. And fourth point is like for any given YouTube, a registered user can write a comment like following. This is for reviewing. And implement the functionality of, this is for the my favorite DIYs. So these three will have in here. So I'll go one by one. Add url.jsp. So as I said previously, the question and the user will be filled in automatically, and user cannot edit it. And user will should give the URL, video title, and video description, and it will be added. The video URL should be something like this. Um, for example, if you're searching for how to do fence. Okay, so we'll go to YouTube. We need to take this You need to take this video, this URL, and this needs to be inserted so that see, for example, here if I play a video, it will be played in here in this website. It will not open the YouTube link. So that is why we need to give this video video link, and that needs to be inserted. So we need to give you URL, video title and description, and submit. It will display the video again. It will display like this. So we will see how it is implemented. The demo part will be shown by Gabriel. So I'm just skipping the part, and see, once you have given everything, it will go to insert URL. For this insert URL, we are passing question ID and user. So for this question, the URL should be inserted, right? So that is we need to pass here. So this is the method that will be inserting the URL. We'll get all these values, variable values, and we are going to this method, and this will insert the records into video table, and what we are checking here is whether the user reached the quota of 3. So here it is mentioned like so here it is mentioned a registered user can give at most 1 review. That will look, so on a particular day the user can post at most 3 YouTube videos. That is taken care in here. So that we have created a separate method. So based on this, so this method will check for the count of records that is already there in the video table for the current date. For the current date is today's date. So if the today's date and posted date matches and the count is till it's less than 0, and user can register. User can insert the URL. Otherwise, it will throw an error like the user reached quota. So that will be set in here. So here, if it will check for that, and if it is not met, if it doesn't reach the quota, it will insert. Otherwise, it will set false and come back here. Otherwise, it will be true. So when we come here, we'll set a error message like user reached today's quota of posting URL, and this value will be passed to this search question. So when we come back in here, so what is the error? Error ends URL argue. So that attribute got here, and if that is null, if this is not null, then it will be displayed in red. All these demo parts will be taken care lately. So here we have completed part 1, part 2, part 3. Now we are going for the part 4. A registered user can write a comment like following, and it should be a drop down menu for the code part and description, and make sure only registered user can give comments. User cannot give a review to her own YouTube videos, and there is one more point in here, user can give at most 1 review for the day, right? Your registered user can give at most 1 review for each YouTube. So that is done here, adding the review. So this is add review.jsp. For this we are passing the URL, username, and also the question is posted by some user, right? And the logged in user. Why this is passed? Both user is passed because the same user who posted the question cannot post a review for that. So for that check, we are passing both usernames, and it's add review.jsp. So see, it is done. We have set a when class in here. If user not equal to question user, then all these thing will be done. Otherwise it will show an error. See, otherwise it will show a error. User cannot review her own video. And here too, the user and URL will be filled in automatically and user cannot review it. And here there will be a drop down and there will be a remark. So when you submit it, it will go to this one. So I'll just show how it is done. See, post a review. If you do that, user cannot edit this. It's a drop down. You can do this and you can do an excellent video, submit it. So it will come here. This will show the reviews you have made for the videos. So you can edit. I'm sorry. You can edit. You go back and edit. If you say good, it will come in here as good. And if you want to delete, it will be deleted. And this will pop in here. So how that is done here is, so we'll go to add review.url. So here we are getting all those parameters and we are checking in URL not equal to null. And see, for example, we will have some questions. See, we will go here, list all questions. There is some URL, there is some questions, but there are no URLs, right? So for that, user cannot review. So it says no URL to review. So that check is done in here. So it will say no URL to review. Okay. So if it is not empty, if the URL is present, so user can review it. It will go in here and it will check for the duplicate review. If the user has already reviewed for the same URL, that check is there. If it is already set, it will get the count. It will get the count and it will come back in here. So if the count is 0, then it will insert it. Otherwise, the user is reviewing it multiple times, more than once, right? So here it says user can review only once, at most once for a video. So that is taken care by this. So when you come back in here, so if it is a duplicate review, it will be false. So if it is false, then it will set an error like a error already reviewed for the URL, and this error is passed to list review. And if you go to list review, this list review is for listing users' own reviews. So it will list all the reviews, and this message is captured in here. What is the thing in here? Error access review. So this will go here. So it will go to this list review method. Here all the error messages that are captured will be that are set in the other methods will be captured in here, and that will be the corresponding messages will be got in here through get parameter, and it will be listed. So all the errors will be listed in red, and the warning messages will be in blue. So uh, user edit and delete part. See, the user can edit a review, delete a review. So we'll go to this edit review.jsp. Here the review ID will be passed, and the URL will be passed, and user will be passed, remark, everything will be passed in here, so that user can edit their review. So this will be passed, and once we have submit the button I showed previously, it will go to this update review. So all these parameters will be get, and it will go to this method, update review method. So for the score and remark for that review ID, it will update, because there might be like for the single user there might be multiple reviews, right, for different URLs. So we need to always update with the review ID. So that is the reason we are passing the review ID in here. And same like so this is for the edit review part. And any error messages will be captured in here. For example, review updation failed, so review updated successfully, the success message and failure message will be captured, and it will be shown in the part. So for example, I'm like okay, I'll give nice. See, if I do delete, it will show review deleted successfully. If I do edit, it will show updated successfully. So that kind of messages. This is just a message, so it is in blue. If it is some error, it will be captured in red color. That is what mentioned in here. List review. If you go back, it says the color red, blue. So this is edit review. The del review is same. Based on the review ID, it will be deleted and it will be captured. So if you go in here, so what are all the needed parameters that is got in here, and we'll go here, go to this method. So based on the review ID, it will be deleted and it is passed. So if it is true, it says successfully, or nothing, like a review deletion failed. So we have covered point 4. Make sure only registered user can give, coming user cannot give. So this we have done, right? User cannot give you her own video. So this part I have shown. Implement the functionality of or add or delete a DIY YouTube to my favorites using and delete from my favorites button. I have favorite can be added right at the page. Okay, so a user can add a URL to his or her favorite page, and later if he wants to delete, they can delete it. So we have completed the review part. I will close all these things. So to make sure, yeah, there is no confusion. So now in here we have this add favorites. So for the question, for that question URL, we are going to add to our favorites, right? So we are passing question ID, user, and the URL. So we'll go to the add URL. Okay. Same as review, if the URL is empty, they cannot add as a favorite part. So that check is done here. So no URL to add as favorite. This the error is set, that is captured in here. And if it is not empty, it will go to add favorite method, and it checks whether that URL is already present or not. Because if a URL is already present as favorite, it should not be added, right? So that is done here. So it checks in the favorite user favorite video table, the URL for that username is already present. If it is if it is present, it will have true, otherwise it will have false. So it will come back in here. So this is list of favorite URL. I'm sorry, this is list of favorite URL. We were checking add URL. Add favorite URL. Yes, add favorite URL. Okay. So if it is not duplicate, then it will add into the system, add into the database. Same for deletion, based on the username and URL, it will delete. And the list URL is similar to listing question. List URL and list review is similar to list questions. We have created a list object in here, like a favorite. Like people.java, we have created review.java and favorite url.java. We have used it in corresponding method, so that we have create an array based on the records that is present in this table. We will basically join these three tables. Yes, favorite video table, question table, and video table will join based on URL and question ID. And for the username, we will fetch all the records, that is question title. So for which question, what is the title, and what is the URL, what is the username. Okay. Similarly for list review also, we will list similar to that. We will take the records from reviews, question, and video table. We will join based on URL and question ID, and for the username we will fetch the records. We will be storing it in the list, and that is fetched, and that is displayed with the for each command, like I showed for the questions. See, for each it will be displayed. So even for this, so you can add a favorite. So if you go back in here, list all questions and add to my favorites. See, there are 3 videos, and if I want to delete, it will be deleted. Okay. So this is the end of part 2, and Gabe will continue the demo. Thanks for watching our video.
Hey everyone, this is the demo for Veerasami and Gabriel Pingitore for part 2 of the course project for DSE 6100. We're really excited to show you what we got here. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to initialize our database, and as we can see, our tables were created successfully. So we're going to be going through part 2 of the project, and there are 5 points that needed to be hit, as well as the fact that a registered user can give at most 1 review for each video, but on a particular day the user can post at most 3 videos. So we're going to be taking you through the functionality on everything so you can get a feel of how that works. Alright, now the first thing we need to do is log in. So we're going to log in an existing user, John, at fe.com. Alright, as you can see here, we have the welcome user page. So the first thing we need to be able to do is ask a question. And we're going to be asking a DIY question, how to paint a wall, with the tags wall, paint, and brush. You can see the user is John at fe.com, so we're going to ask that. Then what happens once it's asked, it pulls up the list of all the questions. And as you can see here, we have John at fe.com. Now if we go into SQL Workbench and we select star from question, we can now see how to paint a wall is there. The question ID has been automatically generated without the user input, as well as the date being inserted. So that gets done automatically. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to insert a DIY YouTube to this existing question. So we are going to click the Add URL button. And as you can see here, there's a spot for a URL, the video title, and the video description. So what we're going to do is copy the hyperlink from the project part 2, and we're going to put in the video title, how to paint a room, with the video description of basic painting tips. Alright, and then we are going to click submit. And again, when we hit submit, pulls up the list of all the questions. And as you can see, we were able to insert, which if you click the link, will pull up the video.
Ready for a change? A quality paint job is...
The next thing we need to do is to test out our search functionality. So we're back at the welcome user page, and we need to test out the search functionality. We're supposed to implement a search interface so a user can type a question and all the videos will be returned. So in this case, we're going to do a very general question. How do I... Hit enter, and we can see all of the videos that start with how do I populate here. So we can see that it's pretty general if you do it that way, but if you go back and we ask a different question and do how do I paint a fence, as you can see, only how do I paint a fence will come up. And this is obviously showing as a table, or in the case before, a list where you can add to your favorites, post a review, add a URL, all that good stuff. And again, easily click and play the video. Alright. So the next point that we need to hit is given any YouTube video, a registered user can write a comment like the following. Choose the ranking of the video by drop-down menu, poor, good, fair, and excellent, and then write a description. So if we go to all the questions, and let's go down to our question here. We're going to post a review. But it doesn't allow us to rate our own video. That's one of the functionalities. We inserted the YouTube video, and the user cannot rate his or her own video. So that's one of the things that we got going on. So if we go back, and we are going to post a review for bids. Let's pretend we watched the bids video. So we'll go ahead and click post a review. Alright, so there's our video URL. And let's say we watched it and we really liked it. And we're going to say, this was an amazing video. So then we'll submit it. And then you can see all of the reviews that we have. And the great thing is too, you can edit your review. Say for instance, you misspoke and that you didn't think it was an excellent video. You can always go in and edit it, or even delete your review. Now, going back to listing all the questions, for point 5 we need to implement the functionality of adding or deleting a DIY YouTube to my favorites, and with an add and delete. And you can see here we have how to paint a chair, and we're going to add that to my favorites. And you can see here that now how do I paint a chair is listed as my favorites. But let's say that's actually not my favorite video anymore. We can easily hit delete, and it is no longer in our favorites. So that hits point 5, but also wanted to go over the functionality. So if we go back, a user can review a video only once. So earlier we did how do I get bids and posted a review. So let's try to post it again, and this time say it's poor. I didn't like this very much. Hit submit, and we can see the video has already been reviewed. It shows us our list of reviews, and we do have the option to edit or delete it. Now the other functionality for this is that we are only allowed to add 3 YouTube videos per day. So let's go ahead and try to add some more. So we're going to add a video to how do I paint a chair. And we're going to submit that. And we were able to add a video for painting a chair. And we're going to try to add one for cutting wood. So we'll throw that in there. How to cut wood. And we can see that that was successful. And we'll go and let's say we want to add a video for sanding wood. So we're going to add a URL. And we're going to throw that in there. To Sandwood. And we're going to submit that. But you can see that the URL posting has been reached, and we are no longer able to post based on today's date. If we go in tomorrow, we will be able to post some more videos, because we also had this video in here when we initialized the database. It's showing us today's date, so that gets us to our quota of 3. So that wraps it up for our presentation. Just again to go over what we showed. We did points 1 through 5 on part 2, where we inserted a DIY question, inserted a DIY YouTube to a question, we searched for a question, we made a review of a video, as well as added and deleted a video from my favorites. And we also showed the functionality that a registered user can give at most 1 review for each YouTube video, but on a particular day, user can post at most 3 YouTube videos. So that wraps it up for the demo. Really appreciate you tuning in and watching this, and thank you so much, and we'll talk to you soon.